Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing well. Welcome back to our YouTube channel Padhai with Guruchela. Dear students, today we will be discussing the literary sources of ancient Indian political thought. The basic objective of this video is to give you an understanding of the origin of political ideas and institutions in ancient India, to give you an insight into the major text where political ideas precepts have been elaborated. This topic would familiarize you as to how Indian political thought developed, aimed centuries of exposition of political ideas and principles based on ethics and morality. Dear students, for the convenience of our understanding, let us divide this topic into a number of segments. So dear students, we would first start with introducing Indian political thought. What is political thought? How did independent Indian political thought develop? What are the major sources that shaped the development of Indian political tradition? Now, we would be analyzing the major literary text. This entire discussion would give you a glimpse of socio-economic and political system prevalent in ancient India, being highlighted through the writings of Indian theorists. Now students, before we move, let's discuss the objective of the course Indian Political Thought Part 1. So my dear students, the primary objective of the course is to make students familiar with the works and studies related to Indian political thought. The course as a whole is meant to provide a sense of the broad streams of Indian thought, while encouraging a specific knowledge of individual thinkers and text. The ideas contain classical as well as medieval approaches to the issues in existence in the Indian society. The course aims to familiarize students with the various intellectual traditions of the Indian subcontinent prevalent from the Vedic period to the Muslim period of rule in India. The focus of the study will be to understand the core concepts of statecraft, kingship, law and order, administration, diplomacy, foreign affairs, justice, governance as laid down in the important literary text. It would also bring in the contemporary relevance of the political principles enunciated centuries ago. The course will help students to develop a critical understanding of the major themes and issues such as community, state, kinship, culture, religion as perceived by different thinkers. A student would be able to understand and appreciate the four main streams of pre-modern Indian thought, which are Brahmanic tradition, Shramanic tradition, Islamic tradition and at last syncretic tradition. Dear students, before we move into the discussion on literary sources of Indian political thought, it is imperative to understand how Indian thought originated. What was it influenced by and how did it take an independent line of thinking? So let's understand the basic concept. What is political thought? While we are familiar with Western political thought through the ideas of Plato, Aristotle, Saint Thomas Aquinas and other thinkers, the development of Greek city-state, ideas of ideal state, republics, democracy, rights and freedom through the writings of Greek and Roman thinkers, Indian political thought also has historical lineage spanning thousands of centuries, but the popularity of political ideas by the ancient thinkers like Manu, Kautilya has gained predominance only in the 20th century. More precisely, during the Indian national movement, when these writings were translated into English, the richness of political ideas explicated by ancient thinkers at the beginning of the Aryan civilization are applicable even today in this globalized world. So, what is political thought? The political thought is the reflection of the civilizational life of the people the nature of law and order, the socio-political system, and the nature of relationship between ruler and ruled. So now coming to the next question. Why do we need to study ancient Indian political thought? So, the study of Indian thought of ancient India facilitate our understanding of politics in two ways. First, it gives us knowledge of the past, its ideas and their relationship to concrete political activity in terms of continuities and discontinuities. Secondly, it helps us to understand by sharpening points of similarities and differences between the past epoch and the ours and highlighting human possibilities for the future. The next, influences on Indian political thought. So, political thought deals with ideas and concepts in general, thoughts of individual thinkers. Political ideologies. Political thought is a product of civilizational history. Indian political thought is a product of Aryan Dravidian acculturation, Jain and Buddhist protest movements for reforms, Hindu-Muslim encounter and coexistence, British colonial rule, Indian response and resistance, and modernization of the Indian tradition. So these are the influences on Indian political thought. In the ancient Hindu works on political thought, a comprehensive and theoretical observation has been provided to the different political problems faced in those days. These problems were interlinked with innate problems of human origins and cosmic processes. Ancient Indian political thought developed from the Aryan civilization to the 12th and 13th century. Indian political thought, for the convenience of our discussion, can be divided into three broad periods or three different phases. That is, Hindu political thought, Muslim or medieval political thought, and at last, modern political thought. Any political thought or thinking or ideas are shaped by the times in which the thinkers have lived and experienced. Political thought is the reflection of the civilizational life of the people, the nature of law and order, the socio-political system, and the nature of relationship between ruler and ruled. Greek and Roman political thought and the ideas of Plato, Aristotle, is a reflection of the societal conditions which makes Aristotle called democracy a perverted from the government, when this modern age is an age of democracy and increased democratization. Indian civilization has been subjected to multiple influences periodically due to foreign inventions leading to acculturation and thus projects ideas which are contemporary yet distinctly Indian in orientation. R.S. Dinkar opines that Indian culture is a product of four important cultural revolutionary transformations and transitions. They are Aryan Dravidian acculturation, Jain and Buddhist protest movements against Brahminical supremacy, Hindu-Muslim encounter, British conquest and Indian response and resistance, and modernization of the Indian tradition. Politics in India is not considered an independent or an autonomous discipline during the ancient times. One has to explore the conception of politics from the multiple sources which deal about the larger questions of human life, mainly religious and philosophical in nature. There is no single source or book of Indian political ideas and theories. In fact, the literary sources can be broadly divided into two major types. One, the Vedas, Upanishads, and the philosophical text provided some significant political concepts, but their fundamental orientation is towards theology, religion, and philosophy. But the Arthashastra and the Dharmashastra literature deals more intensively and systematically with political problems and theories of administration. So, the literary sources of ancient political thoughts are Vedas, Dharmashastras, epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, Arthashastra, Buddhist and Jain writings, Sukranti, Brihaspatisutra, Kurul. Now students, move on the understanding of literary sources. Let us first start with the Vedas. Vedic age produced the first literature about 4000 years ago. We come to know of the socio-political institutions from the Rig Veda, which is collection of our 1028 hymns used in rituals and sacrifices. Though the Vedas were not political literature, yet they provided glimpses of political life of the Aryans. The Vedic literature consists of ideals to be followed both by the sovereign and the subject of the maintenance of peace and happiness in the kingdom. Politically, the country was divided onto numerous tribal principalities headed by Rajas. The rulers held positions of authority and prestige but were restrained from the arbitrary conduct by the priest who officiated at sacrifices and interpreted the scriptures as well as offered guidance to the kings. The society was divided into four classes: Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras. The Rig Veda also mentions the existence of two popular assemblies, Sabha and Samiti. The Sabha consisted of influential persons, and the Samiti was a meeting of general citizens presided by the king. The basic organizational unit was the gram or village, which was headed by the village headman or gramik. The Vedas do not directly provide administrative principles, but their emphasis on dharma as the guiding principle is sufficiently implicative of the relevance of the rule of law. And the king, following dharma, should maintain the greatest good of the greatest number. I mean to say that as same time as following dharma should maintain the greatest good of the greatest number. Now dear students, move on the understanding of next literary source, which is Dharmashastras. They are part of the large body of traditional literature, included in the term Smriti, meaning that which is remembered as distinct from the Vedas and Upanishads. Brahmanas are Yankas, which are Shruti, meaning that which is heard. They deal with basic law and political theory. Some of the well-known Dharmasastras are those of Manu, Vishnu, Narad. The Dharmasastras writers concentrated on exploring the dharma of individuals and social groups, including the government. They, however, did not attempt to provide political dharma as a distinct and autonomous subject of investigation. What they did was to provide a code of conduct covering the entire human life. Politics was incidental to this main concern. They shaped the guidelines for establishment of rule of law in society. The text highlighted the socio-political and religious conditions prevalent in ancient India, caste system, civil and criminal law, etc. The king was pivot of state, though he was not above the rules of his own caste. The Shastras are purported to be divine origin. Now, dear students, coming to the next important literary source, which is Manusmriti. The foremost place in the Smriti literature is given to Manusmriti and given its significance. It is also called the Manav Dharma Shastra. It provides a detailed analysis of every aspect of human life. A description of the text will give the readers an insight into how valuable political precepts are contained in the text. The text consists of 2685 verses divided into 12 chapters. Chapter 7 focuses on Rajdharma, Chapter 8 on civil and criminal law, Chapter 9 and 10 on customs and laws regarding divorce, inheritance, property, occupation. The text also mentions principles of statecraft, public security, taxation, interstate relations, and the importance of public opinion. Manusmriti explain in detail the nature of Vyavhar Padas, that is, different kinds of laws, the importance of proof, witness, and evidence in establishing a crime, and the procedure of dispensation of justice, making the text a handbook for a modern statements and law makers and adjudicators. The Manusmriti also explain the nature of decentralization of power in terms of provincial and village administration, as well as the importance of public opinion and welfare statism. Now, dear students, move on the understanding of epic literature. Students, the two great epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, are of perennial interest for the understanding of ancient Indian social and political thought. The vision of ideal state presented in the Ramayana has been referred to by Gandhi during the freedom movement as Ram Rajya. The state was a means to public welfare, and the text is replete with examples of moral principles. The victory of good over evil. Value of ethics of Bharat not sitting on the throne meant to be for Ram, the ruler of Ayodhya. These provides moral inspiration to the political theorist. However, the Mahabharata is more comprehensive as a political treatise than Ramayana. While the Ramayana highlights the victory of good over evil, the need for humanism in governance, Mahabharata is more practical in its outlook by focusing on both the victor and the vanquished in all their glories. The Shanti Parva, the 12th Parv, which is a discourse on statecraft delivered by Bhishma while awaiting his death on the bed of arrows in the battlefield to Yudhishthir, is one of the most powerful political discourses. Bhishma comprehensively describes the nature of state, functions, duties of the king, both during normal and during periods of crisis, ultimately signifying the importance of welfare statism in an era when usually law was the command of the sovereign and citizens had to obey the dictates of the king. The king had a moral, political, and social obligation to provide for good governance through the concept was not as explicit as it appears today. The Shanti Parva describes in detail the nature of the state, relationship between king and subjects, methods, appointment and removal of government officials, composition of the king's cabinet, nature of justice, concept of right to resistance, a concept which is Western and can only be found in the writings of John Locke and T.H. Green. Dear students, now understand the next literary source, which is Arthashastra. The Arthashastra of Kautilya is the most important work focusing on the science of polity and economy. It was composed during the 3rd century BC. It elaborates on state, law, governance, international relations, foreign policy. The comprehensiveness and richness of content of both Chanakya Niti and Arthashastra is depreciated by the elaborate analysis of domestic and international politics. Kautilya was the first to define the elements of the state in the Saptang theory, describing in detail the nature of Swami, Amatya, Janpada, Durga, Kosha, Dand, and Mitra. The concept of welfare state is clearly embedded in this guideline on statecraft when he said, "In the happiness of the subjects lies his happiness. In their welfare, his welfare. Whatever pleases himself, he shall not consider as good, but whatever makes his subject happy, he shall consider good." The Arthashastra also emphasizes on artha or economy as the basis of politics and he was the first thinker to explicate the discipline of political economy. An able ruler was one who not only provided welfare measures for his citizens but also ensured that lawbreakers were punished. Dandaniti, or the art of punishment, has a connotations similar to our modern notion of politics as the science of power or coercion. The Arthashastra elaborate the principles of punishment, centering around the idea of punishment as deserved, neither too lenient nor too harsh. Dandaniti was a tool to discipline and ensures people's obedience to laws and maintenance of order in society and state. The Arthashastra also contains elaborate strategies and principles for effective foreign policy, highlighting in detail how diplomatic precepts and foreign policy principles can help a ruler to further his self-interest, military, political, and economy. Dear students, let's understand the next literary source, which are Buddhist and Jain writings. Buddhist and Jain writings flourished between the 7th and 5th centuries BC. The major writings are the Pitikas, Vinay Pitika, Sutta Pitika, and Abhidhamma Pitika. The Buddhist thought is a witness to the emergence of a new coalition, the Kshatriya-Vaishya coalition, replacing the Brahmin-Kshatriya alliance. Buddhist script preached dharma in place of dharma, replacing the inegalitarian Brahminical caste-driven Hindu society with a more egalitarian societal system based on universal welfare. Buddhist scriptures also replaced the hereditary rule of kingship by a new theoretical formulation, the concept of Mahasamata, or an elected king who would be primus inter pares, something quite unknown in Western political thought too. The Buddhist state reflected monastic governance. The monastic community was governed and regulated by a well-formulated code of conduct, the Vinaya, which formed an integral part of the Buddhist compendium enumerating the rules and procedures governing the structure and functioning of the monastic community. Now understand the Jainism writings or Jainism. Jainism was essentially non-political but non-anti-political. Samadeva's famous book Niti Vakya Mratam is treatise on political science. He believes that the science of logic deals with metaphysical and spiritual knowledge, economics with management of trade and agriculture, and science of politics with the protection of good and control of the wicked. The text delineates the characteristics of an ideal ruler. As a true lord is the who is righteous, pure in lineage, conduct, and associates, brave and considerate in his behavior. Now understand the next literary source, which is Niti Shastra and Sukranti. Students, Niti Shastra constitute a separate tradition of political thought, the most notable being the Sukranti. Niti Shastra implies policy science. As V.R. Mehta remarks, while all other sciences deal with their respective spheres of action, it is the supreme science because it deals with all of them. The two primary functions of the king are protection of subjects and the punishment of the guilty, and both these functions, according to him, cannot be adequately performed without Niti Shastra. The text emphasizes on king's own discipline. Emphasis was also on welfare and responsibilities to public welfare. Sukranti discusses in detail the functions of the king, which are namely punishment of the wicked, practice of charity, protection of the subjects, performance of sacrifices, equitable realization of revenues, and extraction of wealth from the land. The Sukranti also dwells at length on public opinion. Thus, Sukranti deliberates on the notion of welfare state and its relationship with citizens to create an organic whole. Dear students, let's understand the second last literary source, which is Brihaspatisutra. While Sukra was the teacher of Asuras or demons, Brihaspati, one of the great Sikhs, was the teacher of the intra-cosmic gods. The text details the nature of kingship, theory of justice, concept of positive state, and even contemporary ideas like conducting tests to select the right officials and ministers on merit by taking into account virtue and excellence. The text has elaborate details of the rules for detection of crime, collection of evidence, and examination of witnesses, etc. The machinery of justice is decentralized with different types of village courts, district courts, and all culminating in the court of the king. He contemplated 4 types of punishment: warning, dishonor, to remind people of their duties, fines, and death sentence. Now, students, let's understand the last literary source, which is Kural of Trivaluvar. Students, the Three Kural is a collection of 1330 couplets organized into 133 chapters. It exhibits the cultural values of the Tamil people during the Sangam period under the rule of Pandyans. The text can be divided into 3 broad sections, namely Aram, Porul, and Inbam. While the first part speaks about the art of living a righteous life, the second part postulates principles of polity and economy, the military, citizenry, resources, advisors, friends, and fortress. Who owns these 6 is a lion among kings. According to Valuvar, life is a worth living and gathering wealth is essential for life. Students, let's sum up what we studied. Students, thus we can see that political ideas are not systematically presented in a single book or text but scattered in different writings. Despite the dominance of religion, ancient India did produce a rich compendium of political literature. Political ideas were sometimes undifferentiated with the folklore of philosophical discourses. Dear students, I hope you understand each and everything very well. If you enjoyed the content of this video, do like, share and comment and click the subscribe button so you can receive more content like this every week. So students, thank you for watching this video. Stay home, stay safe, stay indoors.